You're saying that we didn't criticize
Did the
Merrick
Biden
Garland?
DOJ arrest a single person under this law?
You are now changing the
No, that is what I said.
That
is what I said.
Again, I'll pull the record.
Did the Biden DOJ arrest even one?
Again.
The answer is no.
My point to you is the accusation that the Democrats on this committee do not care about the safety of federal judges. I did not interrupt you, sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish.
So I do enjoy the fact that my colleague from New Jersey raises his voice and says it's a patent lie and says he's doing so in defense of lowering the rhetoric. There is some irony to doing those two together. I'll point out that in the entire course of those remarks, Senator Booker did not dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department arrested 0 people, prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law, and every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it. And this was an ongoing pattern for months.
Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Cory Booker go head-to-head over Trump's executive powers and the role of the Justice Department. Ted Cruz wastes no time calling out what he sees as hypocrisy. He points to the staggering number of nationwide injunctions issued against Trump, more than in the entire 20th century combined. He blasts radical groups for cherry-picking judges to push political agendas and slams the Biden Justice Department for ignoring threats to Supreme Court justices. Cruz's tone is sharp, his accusations direct. He insists Democrats were silent while mobs gathered outside justices' homes, refusing to enforce federal law. Cory Booker jumps in, visibly angered. He calls Cruz's claims a patent lie, accusing him of fueling dangerous rhetoric for political gain. Booker insists Democrats condemned threats against judges and worked across the aisle to strengthen protections. Let's dive in.
Would you indulge me for a moment?
We indulge you every moment.
I appreciate that act of generosity. It's just something you said that I think is actually dangerous and should be addressed, and you're welcome. But when Judge Anderol was killed in New Jersey, the Republican colleagues in the Senate, their outpouring of support, their outpouring of concern, they're willing to work together on a bipartisan bill was extraordinary. It shows the truth of this institution. It's, despite some of the fiery rhetoric that you were sowing, we're really a bipartisan, working bipartisanship. Cornyn and Coons, after the incidents you're talking about, got together and actually passed a bill to better protect our Supreme Court justices, many of whom are friends of ours. You know, Gorsuch and I disagree on a lot of stuff. I knew his wife before he did. We studied together at Oxford. This implication that there was silence when there were threats on their people's houses is absolutely absurd. I remember the rhetoric and the comments, the concern from Coons. I actually distinctly remember you, Chairman, on more than once condemning those attacks on Republican-appointed jurists. To say things like that feeds just the partisanship in this institution and feeds the fiery rhetoric. And it's just plain not true. It's just plain not true. And I think you know that, but we can pull from the record from my colleagues in real time, literally days afterwards, condemning it. There's a lot of substantive things to say here, but to think that the lack of humanity when people's homes are being threatened was not in existence, I think that's unfair and really concerns me that you would say that in the way that you did.
Well, I thank my colleague from New Jersey. I will note, as John Adams observed, that facts are stubborn things. And it is existing federal law, 18 U.S.C. Section 1507, that makes it a crime to protest at a judge's home. And the law provides whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent or of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device, or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. That is federal criminal law. Night after night after night, angry mobs were outside the Supreme Court justices' homes, and in the entire course of it, the Biden Justice Department prosecuted nobody. We had the Attorney General sitting at that table and multiple Republican senators asked him, why are you not enforcing the law? What they are doing is a crime. And my friend from New Jersey said, it is a lie to say we, the Democrats, condone this. I would challenge, my friend, find a single Democrat senator on this committee holding the Attorney General to account for not enforcing this law. I was here at those hearings, and I do not recall a single Democrat senator saying to the Attorney General, you should arrest these people who are violating the law. You should protect the judges. I agree that there was general language against violence, but not a single Democrat senator that I ever saw in this committee was willing to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland to account for flagrantly disregarding the federal criminal law because the Biden administration agreed with the protesters and I think wanted those justices harassed at their home.
I really appreciate that you've now shifted the accusation you made earlier. Your accusation was that we were silent in the face of protests at Supreme Court justices' homes. Again, we joined together in a bipartisan way, not only to condemn that, but to pass legislation to extend round-the-clock security protection, literally days. It was introduced May 5th, passed the Senate in a bipartisan fashion on May 9th. So if you're saying that we didn't criticize
Did the
Merrick Garland...
DOJ arrest a single person under this law?
You are now changing the
No, that is what I said.
accusation
That is what I said.
Again, I'll pull the record.
Did the Biden DOJ arrest even one?
Again...
The answer is no.
My point to you is the accusation that the Democrats on this committee do not care about the safety
All right, so let me
of
ask you
federal
this.
judges. I did not interrupt you,
DOJ
sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish. I am sick and tired of hearing the kind of heated partisan rhetoric, which is one of the reasons why we have such divisions in this country. The attacks we see from the President of the United States of America trolling and dragging judges through is what we should be talking about that puts people in danger. I'm simply taking issue with the claim that you made at the top that people on the Democratic side of the aisle do not care about the safety and the security of judges and said nothing. You said we were silent after people's houses were protested. That is a patent lie, sir. We were not silent. We took action. We've joined in a bipartisan way to protect those judges, as was done in a bipartisan way to protect a New Jersey judge after their horrific attack at their home. So I see you now trying to shift the debate to whether we talk to an attorney general. I'm simply taking issue with this accusation that somehow we Democrats are so bad because we don't call out threats to our judicial colleagues. And that is wrong. You could change the argument now that you want, but what you said was patently not true and was, in fact, a patent lie.
So I do enjoy the fact that my colleague from New Jersey raises his voice and says it's a patent lie and says he's doing so in defense of lowering the rhetoric. There is some irony to doing those two together. I'll point out that in the entire course of those remarks, Senator Booker did not dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department arrested 0 people, prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law, and every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it.
As the gavel came down, one thing became crystal clear. Ted Cruz was not there to score quick political points. He was there to demand accountability. Throughout the entire exchange, Cruz stayed laser-focused on the facts. He reminded the nation that federal law explicitly prohibits protests outside the homes of judges to prevent intimidation and protect the rule of law. Yet under the Biden administration, those laws were ignored while angry mobs gathered night after night outside Supreme Court justices' homes. Cruz didn't just highlight the failures, he exposed the hypocrisy. He reminded the chamber that not a single Democrat on the committee held the Biden Justice Department accountable, even as judges and their families faced real threats. Instead, Democrats shifted the debate, offering emotional defenses and pointing fingers elsewhere, but they could never refute the core issue. The law was broken, and the administration looked the other way. While Cory Booker raised his voice and tried to reframe the narrative, Cruz brought the receipts. He pointed out that the same Democrats outraged over rhetoric were silent when Chuck Schumer stood on the steps of the Supreme Court and directly threatened justices by name. He showed that their outrage was selective, their silence deafening when the political winds blew in their favor. In the end, Ted Cruz emerged from this hearing as the one voice demanding equal protection under the law, regardless of politics. He stood firm, grounded in facts and federal statutes, refusing to let partisan spin distract from the truth. For those watching across the country, Cruz's relentless questioning sent a clear message. Laws matter, justice must be blind, and no administration should get a free pass to ignore the Constitution when it suits them.